Apparently, do you remember when we talked about how Anglo-Saxons didn't exist? And then they tell us that the Europeans didn't exist. But apparently, English doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. Did you think that they were going to leave the language alone? Of course not. So what are we even using here? English doesn't exist and is just badly pronounced French, linguist claims. Expert claims French has provided the English with an essential vocabulary. He previously slammed the use of English words in French culture as distressing. Let me guess. Is this linguist, by any chance, French? A French linguist? A French linguist has controversially claimed that the English language doesn't exist and is just badly pronounced French. Brother, I know what you're trying to do here. Considering the fact that the English are already under attack because they've been told that the Anglo-Saxon don't exist, that England doesn't exist. Can we not? You just don't. Bernard, well, this doesn't look like a French surname. It looks like an Italian surname. Maybe he has some... Cerquiglini is how I would read it in Italian. Cerquiglini. A linguistic professor from Lyon points out that the English language used the thousands of words taken from French about 1,000 years ago. Be that as it may, mon ami. What? I mean, Italian uses a lot of Greek words. I mean, in fact, there's quite a bit of Greek in there as well, in English, I'd like to say. Also, there are the Latin connection, less. There is that. But then if you really want to be pedantic about it, it's badly pronounced Norman French, which is different stage. But it doesn't matter because it's stupid. Japanese, then it's badly pronounced Chinese because they have a monument. In fact, the entire writing system, apart from hiragana and katakana syllabaries. Or what about all the kanji? It's all Chinese, and it's ridiculous. Like, it's what is he trying to say, this guy? I don't know. Ironically, yeah, that's a fantastic word to use in this case, many of these have since re-entered the French language, but in bastardized bastard, such as stew, people, and shopping. Professor Cerquiglini, an advisor to... Oh, okay, now I see. Now it makes perfect sense. Guys, an advisor to Macron, of course he's a clown, has already slammed the continued use of English words in French culture as distressing. Look, Mr. Professor, I got something to say. I would imagine that the Anglo-Saxons would agree with you in the sense that they would rather have chosen to do without the distressing influence of the Normans after the conquest. I would find that more of a historical relevance when it comes to this. But since it did happen historically, 1066, Battle of Hastings, and all the other Muppets involved historically, the Duchy of Normandy, then, I mean, it is what it is. What's the big deal anyways? In fact, we should be happy that English is not badly pronounced French, just shut it. But English is strongly influenced by the Romance language family, absolutely, either through Norman French and a little bit of Latin, although then again, they do say pasta, so there is a little Italian in there. I'm kind of proud of saying that we are distressing their culinary habits. But the problem is that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it makes English, which is the de facto lingua franca at this moment, it's better because it makes it easier to learn. Because if English was purely Germanic and we had to deal with Anglo-Saxon, it would have been a lot harder for me to make these videos today. So massive thanks to the Normans for making my life a lot easier these days. Now, you know what it is? I think the professor is jealous and he wanted French to be the lingua franca. His comments bring to mind the hopeless spy office Crabtree from the 80s sitcom Hello, who is, I have no idea what they're talking about, who is British, but thinks he can speak fluent French in a convincing accent. Cerquiglini's new book is called La langue anglaise n'existe pas, c'est du français mal prononcé. So that's actually the title of his freaking book. French gave English essential vocabulary, but essential, I would disagree. Because the essential vocabulary was there, and it's very Germanic. It's not like you say anything related to manger. You say eat, drink. I mean, you can clearly tell the drink has a Germanic connection, because, I mean, trinken in German, it's not like you need to be a linguist to figure that out. It gave, like, all of the important vocabulary, philosophy, a lot of like religious stuff, although then again there is a lot of Greek in there, and clearly Latin. Then it gave it like bureaucracy, like bureau is one of those, which I'll give him. It's not like people say bureau, they do say bureau with a stress at the beginning. But who cares? It's fully integrated. French gave English essential vocabulary, that of law, trade, spirituality, art, and government. Professor Cerquilini says, okay? If English is a prestigious international... I told you he's envious. He's envious. Professor, I'm going to show you a map, and I'll show you why English is such a prestigious language of international usage. It's not thanks to French. You know it's thanks to what? It's thanks to this. That's the British Empire, brother. Not only that, the British Empire in conjunction with America. America. Because all the movies, Hollywood, industry, pop culture, music, all that stuff that America's influenced the world with, it's nothing to do with French. So I'd say it's these two things, America and the British Empire, which had 5 times the size of the Roman Empire, I think, may have a little bit to do with the prestigious position that the English language does have today. What do you think? Let's see, he's going to talk about the Middle Ages now. Let's go. In his book, Professor Cerquilini argues that French has been the official and common language of England for several centuries. Oh my gosh, this guy is like really envious. In the Middle Ages, a variety of languages were spoken by inhabitants of the British Isles. How dare they? From Cornish to English to Norn, an extinct North Germanic language. But after the Norman conquest of 1066, led by William, the Duke of Normandy, French became a major language in England. Examples of English words with their origin in Norman French include accuse, bacon, enemy, surrender, people, chivalry, majesty, your majesty, fashion, and wicket. Okay, look, maybe he does have a point. Because, wicket does sound really nice. Many of the current spellings of these words are different from the original French, not to mention the pronunciation. Well, obviously, it's a different language, you clown. And I remember the last time that I had an argument with a Frenchman was in England, by the way. People, the word people comes from the Old French peuple, which has since become peuple, referring to a general population, a specific nation, or an ethnic group. Okay, so let me tell you why this professor is an absolute embarrassment of the entire industry, the university, whatever the heck it is. If you really want to say that the English language doesn't exist, and in fact it's just badly pronounced French, on the basis of a lot of their vocabulary, in fact it's probably 40%, which means 60% is still Germanic, if I'm not wrong, it's last time I checked, whatever percentage it is, it doesn't matter, then wouldn't French be badly pronounced Latin based on your own logical assessment? The badly pronounced, absolutely, because you're adding Germanic sounds. Germanics, that's the barbarians, mate. You're adding Germanic sounds, the uvula R, which you got from the Germans. So even that, you stole it from the Germans. You were rolling your R's just like all of us in medieval France. So you stole the R from the freaking Germans, and you applied barbarian, Celtic/Germanic pronunciation to Latin. The words you didn't make up, because we haven't got a clue how they were speaking before the wrong ones. We have some ideas, but it's not like you guys could write. Before we arrived, what are we going to do about it? I would say it's all nonsense, but if you really want to stick to this idea that English is badly pronounced French and the English language doesn't exist, then the French language doesn't exist, and it's badly pronounced Latin. Thank you. Mushroom is from the old Norman word moucheron, while beef, you know what's fascinating about this though, is that in modern French, they don't even use this, I don't think. In modern French, they literally say champignon. Because in our languages, including Italian, when we say champignon or champignon, we think a specific type of mushroom. But in French, I know that because my cousin lives in France and he told me that, they just use champignon to mean just any mushroom. So why don't you go back to the Norman way then, so that this moucheron, les moucherons, while beef comes from boeuf, toast is from toasté. Even that though, because what we in America French toast, I think, of course in France they don't call it French toast. I think you guys just call it toast. Because of it's obvious that it's French, I guess. Porridge, porridge. Don't take porridge from the English, mate, because you're going to start another 100 years war. Please, just don't. Up to 40% of all English words have French origin. Right, so it's 60% are Germanic, you clown. I mean, I get it, he's a linguist and not into maths. But then again, okay, Professor Cerquilini makes the point that many of them have come full circle. They started off as French, were borrowed and adapted by the English, and the English versions have since re-entered the French lexicon, albeit in their new English form, which is, we can't have that. We lost the Battle of Azincourt, and now this? We already had to deal with English longbowmen, and now this? Come on, English. Won't you leave the French alone? No, you have to go and bring, what was the word that he was complaining about, that people say, stew? How dare you force the French to say, aujourd'hui je voudrais manger le stew? He argues that it would be appropriate to reappropriate them, at least by pronouncing them in the French way. How the heck would you pronounce stew the French way, by the way? I'm really curious. I'm really curious about that now. Le stew. Le stew est très bon. Merci. C'est bon ça? Professor Cherquillin is not the only Frenchman with a dislike for English. Look, brother, you could have left it like this. This professor is not the only Frenchman with a dislike for the English, and vice versa. Because, I mean, the French don't like the English. I think we have established that. Problem is that nobody else likes the French. No one likes the French. Another language professor, Jean Millet, but it's always professors though. Do the regular French people care? Has labeled his countrymen as lazy for allowing an invasion of English words into the French vocabulary. Lazy. For example, French people use the English word look as a noun. Oh yeah, we do that in Italian now that I think about it. Ha un bel look. Yeah, we use that. Rather than the French variation like aspect, apparence, well, that was a little long, come on. Tenue or allure. I would put them in prison at this point, Professor, and throw away the key, because they're traitors. Who taught English at a Paris university said, "There has never been so many Anglicisms in our vocabulary. There is as many as 10%, and it's increasing exponentially." The reason is partly due to linguistic laziness, because many English words are shorter and more user-friendly than their French counterparts. They don't sound nice. They don't sound nice. How dare you say, look, what an awful sound. But we use them because they have become automatic. What's wrong with the word look? Shopping. Well, I can imagine though why they think they don't sound nice. Because he probably says a shopping. Then, yeah, I mean, it's not great. I don't know what this means. Nincompoop? What? Bogey, trollop. Why these words are among the words that could go extinct within a generation as young people haven't heard of them. Oh, these are French words? These are French words? As many as 40% of 18 to 30-year-olds have never heard of the word sozzled, but this is English, meaning drunk, while 37% were unfamiliar with referring to a man who behaves dishonorably as a cad. In what language? Researchers from the Prospectus Global Research Agency provided a long list of words to a panel of 2,000 respondents. Man, people have time to waste. Many of the words have origins from the 19th century or later. Okay. Sir, I'd say you did not defend your thesis very well, and I think that I will not go on a shopping spree to buy your book, your livre.